Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Tim here. Real quick, the reason why I'm doing this video is a thread has been going around. I believe Black Beans and Rice kicked it off, where it was show 10 of bands you've seen live. I've been to a few concerts, so I figured I'd jump in. But before I get started on all that, if you watched a couple videos back, I kind of gave a little bit of a channel life update. And I'm happy to report that my mother-in-law's surgery went extremely well. They did remove the portion of the lung that was infected with lung cancer, but now they have to wait and see from tests and things like that if that was it. Their belief is that yes, but they have to be certain. So we're not out of the woods yet. But the surgery went well. She's been recovering very quickly. So she was moved out of ICU into her own room today. Surgery was on Friday. They removed the tube very quickly. She was able to kind of withstand tests and things like that. So now they just have to make sure everything's draining properly and everything's drained, and any air around the lung has been removed. So that way they can remove everything. Once they've completely got her off the tubes, they have to wait one day to kind of monitor and things like that, and then she can go home. So could be late Tuesday, maybe Wednesday, who knows. So I'm actually headed down there tomorrow with my youngest. We're gonna spend a few days down there and just make sure everything's ready for her to come home, and make sure my wife's got everything she needs, because she's gonna stay down there a little bit longer and help out and stuff like that. So not out of the woods yet, but thank you for your thoughts and your positive vibes and positive feelings and prayers and everything. It is greatly appreciated. So anyway, that being said, 10 records by bands I have seen live. So I actually saw them on this tour, the Afterburner tour. So just brought the damn house down. I mean, when you've got a back catalog that just like ZZ Top does. Biggest memory of this was just the stage presence of the band. When you got a three-piece, and they were known for obviously the spinning guitars and stuff like that, they really commanded the stage. So the stage was set up with the backdrop was like a picture of a Sphinx wearing his cheap sunglasses, and the stage itself was kind of covered a little bit. It was like a sheet or something like that. And so when they finally get ready to come out on stage and the lights are dim and stuff like that, you're hearing like a tapping and scraping. And the more it goes on, the more you figure out that this is like a razor blade sound on glass. So then it goes, you hear, and as it does that long pull, the sheet gets pulled via a string up the Sphinx's nose, and the band's underneath, and then the stage is set up like the dash of the Eliminator car, and they're the sound system. So tongue-in-cheek, sure, but it was kind of cool. They destroyed the place. They absolutely just ripped the place apart. It was one of those things that was glad to see them, and they went till they couldn't. I mean, like the house lights came on, and they were like, "If you play anymore, we're killing the power." So it was a good show. It was a lot of fun. So I pulled 2 records for this one because I saw these guys together. Here, I'll show you. It was Heart in Kansas. So obviously this wasn't the album I saw Kansas with, because this was the tour that I saw Heart on. And so Kansas opened up, and they had gone through a couple lineup changes and stuff like that, but they had really played pretty much everything. The album with Fight Fire with Fire, that would have been that album that they were opening, and they built it as a double headliner. But I think at that point, Kansas had kind of seeing its glory days go by, but it was still a great show, a lot of fun. They had a lot of energy. They played everything you could want to hear. Heart came out and just destroyed it. They opened with Barracuda. I know Ann had addressed her weight gain in the show. To me, it didn't matter to me. I've had a crush on her since Dreamboat Annie. Her nickname is the Siren, and for damn good reason, because she got the pipes. So I mean, just absolutely killer stuff. So I was glad to see them. They rocked out, even though at that point they were doing a little bit more of a pop sound, but they absolutely killed it. So this one's kind of bittersweet. So I did see Dokken on this tour. They were actually opening up for Aerosmith, which, it's a good double bill, but I was there actually more, believe it or not, to see Dokken. So there was no hiding the fact that there were times that George Lynch and Don Dokken just didn't see eye to eye and were quite pissed at each other. And we thought this was one of those times where, because George Lynch was, he was off to the side, he wasn't moving at all. And so, believe it was the fourth song in that they were playing, I think it was Burning Like a Flame. George Lynch went down, down. And they hurried him off stage, and apparently he had walking pneumonia. Now, whether it was walking pneumonia or something else, that remains to be seen. I just know that I was like, well, this sucks. I really was looking forward to seeing Dokken. To Aerosmith's credit, I will say this. They came out early. They still gave you your full show. Plus, you could tell there were times where they were like, okay, we got to kind of extend this. So they were just like, what did we rehearse that would probably be in a second half of the tour set or something like that? So they threw in a few extra pieces, so Aerosmith came out to save the day. And it was really a great show from them. I was there to see Dokken, but I'm not the biggest Aerosmith fan, but you gotta admit that they're legends in the game, so you kind of have to tip your hat to them, and they came out and rocked the place. Next one is Billy Joel. I saw him on the Stormfront tour, which I don't have on wax, so I grabbed my favorite one from Billy, which is The Stranger. Say what you will. If you're not a fan, that's fine. But Cat can play. He really can. He really worked the energy of the crowd into a frenzy at times. Played everything I could have ever wanted. He got into some of his deeper album cuts. I was really happy he played Goodnight Saigon. So it was a fun show. He really made his stage presence known, even when he was sitting kind of stuck at the piano. So just a great show. I had a lot of fun. I did not see AC/DC in the Bon Scott era. I don't have the one. See, I'm fuzzy on this one. I can't remember if it was Flick of the Switch. I think it was. I'm pretty sure. Okay, now that I'm thinking about it, pretty sure it was Flick of the Switch that I saw them on. I was a little younger, so I knew AC/DC, but I didn't know their entire catalog. So some of the songs were a little bit lost on me. I've since become a much bigger fan of AC/DC. But you could tell that they had had a few to drink. So hold on. Sorry about that. To you, it was just the click of a button, but for me, my oldest he wanted to get a drink, and he was doing some goofy walk past the table, and I was going to be distracted, so it wasn't going to happen. So anyway, let's get back to it. So this was the tour I saw The Who on. It was their, was it the 25th anniversary of Tommy? Doesn't seem right. Maybe it was. Maybe. That might have been right. Anyway, I saw them. All these were back when I lived in Maryland. So I saw them in D.C. at RFK Stadium. There was no opening act. In fact, the way Metro and stuff like that worked out, I think they kicked off at like 6:30 or 7 or something like that. They just if there was a song they didn't play, I couldn't remember what it was. They played everything that you would want to hear. Um, they delved into some of the fun stuff at the beginning, and obviously they were there to celebrate Tommy. So they didn't do Tommy in its entirety, but they gave you most of it. So that was good. I was glad to see that. And then the second half was just, by the time RFK was full for the second half, the second set, and they kicked it off with Bob O'Reilly, and it was just like, we in for a night. So it was a great time. Had a lot of fun. I did not see Floyd on the Wish You Were Here tour. I wish. Wish You Were Here, The Wall, I would have taken any one of them. But I saw them on the Momentary Lapse of Reason tour. And obviously that was the first one with Roger Waters gone. I still enjoyed it. I mean, it wasn't like it was a bad show. I mean, you still got, essentially the rest of the band together. And they played, Gilmore's, as long as they had a replacement singer, Gilmore's there. So, it was a good show. The only thing that I took away from it that really just, here's the thing, I think I've said this before. When you come out and you perform your new album in its entirety, the show has no surprise. One of the reasons that you want to go to the show is the experience, that wow factor, that moment of, oh, they're playing this, I love this song, or that was a bold choice, or especially when a catalog that's so depth, has so much depth as, say, Floyd. It's to me, it took away from the surprise. Now, granted, it was the first half of the show. They still opened with Shine On, and I wouldn't trade seeing them for anything. But I'm not a fan of going to see a band where they played their new album in its entirety. 25th anniversaries, tours, or things like that, I kind of get. But new albums, no. So I'm going to show about that far, because it's Public Enemy's Fear of a Black Planet, or as you can see, Fear of Black Plan. Trust me, it's Fear of a Black Planet. I picked this up super duper cheap. I never had it on wax. I really wish these would get reissued on 2 discs, because there's just way too many damn songs on this one. So this was not the tour. I saw them on the Smoking Grooves tour. It was Public Enemy, Cypress Hill, Busta with Flip Mode, Wyclef Jean, Black Eyed Peas before Fergie, so they were good. Gang Starr. It was just a phenomenal show. There were most, if not all, the bill appealed to me. I'm a huge Busta Rhymes fan. I love Cypress Hill. Gang Starr. Primo's beats are just. So I was really excited to see Gang Starr, and glad I got to see that before Guru passed. But Public Enemy was like, it didn't matter who else was going to be there. Public Enemy's on the bill. I want to see them. They were a bucket list for, and they didn't disappoint. They blitzed through a lot of songs, and I appreciated that, because it's a hip hop show, so you're playing kind of from vinyl, show vinyl, or DAT or whatever, so you have a control, so you can get like a minute and a half, 2 minutes of this, and 2 minutes of that, and 2 minutes of this, or whatever. And so they really went through a lot of songs, and that was great. My favorite moment of the show was off their second album, It Takes a Nation of Millions to Hold Us Back. There is a song, Black Steel in the Hour of Chaos, and it's my favorite song by Public Enemy. I loved Chuck's delivery on it, and it's just fantastic. And it's a very militant driven song. And when they started it, where our seats were, there was a rail right in front of me. And I literally stood on the rail with a raised fist. And the whole time they performed it. And I could see Flav kind of point in my general direction. Now, this is like an outside theater, so it wasn't like it was, 30,000 people, but, I'm dead center and he's pointing pretty much right at me. And I see him and Chuck both give the old, fist in the air. So I was like, to me, that's a moment. So I know not everyone's a hip hop fan. Sorry. So last two of my most special memories. I'm gonna go with this one. So I did see this tour, and the following, but I pulled this one because this was my very first concert. I was gifted tickets to go see Genesis for my birthday. My stepdad knew I loved this album, and I knew that there was a history of Genesis. Now, I had not delved into that at a, 83, so I would have been 12, maybe 13 for the tour. So, I was digging deeper. I knew Three Sides Live, and I knew The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway, and I knew Abacab and Duke and stuff like that. But going back even further, I didn't know so much, but I loved this album. So it was a great time. It was a really fun time to be there. I was actually nervous because I'd never been to a show before. Didn't know what to expect, and just the show blew me away. And I remember for a long time I wore that t-shirt proudly, and everybody's like, Genesis, what's so special about that? I'm like, you bite your tongue. Sticking my friend Bill on you. So last one. I'm gonna wrap this up because this is going way too long. I talk too much. I saw them on this tour, third night in. It was the US leg. Tour just kicked off, and it was the third night. And they were amazing. I think back to this night. Okay, first off, Yngwie Malmsteen opened, so 1, 2. There you go. So that was the Trilogy album, and he tore the place apart. Just shredded everything to death, and we were like, what the hell just happened? I have no idea. We are just done. And then 25 minutes later, the lights go off. And you want to talk about 20,000 metal fans just, it was unreal. Seeing so at this point, Nico's drums at some point in the show would rise, and there would be kind of like under the drum riser a balloon, inflatable, of that Eddie, and there were flaps in the stage that would come out, and it was like Eddie's hands and stuff like that. They had on stage, it was the Power Slave Eddie, if I remember correctly. It was, the more mummified Eddie who came out and was rocking and stuff like that. Everybody was just on point. It was just high energy. If you could have changed the stage color wherever Bruce Dickinson ran, completely different color. He didn't miss anything. He was all over that stage. His little legs were just flying all over the place. And being as that it was Bruce's fourth album, so they still did Running Free. That was a staple at that point. I can't remember if they did anything else off those first two. But when you have Number of the Beast, Power Slave, Peace of Mind, and Somewhere in Time, to pull from. Not one song sucks. It just doesn't. And it was one of those ones that after the show, get home, say goodbye to my friends, and I'm laying in bed and I could not sleep. I knew I had school the next day. And the deal was I was allowed to go to concerts during the week, provided I paid for them. I had a job. But, that's how I'm in high school. But the next day, I had to go to school. I couldn't skip. I couldn't sleep, oh, I'm too tired or whatever. No, that got me into a lot of trouble. And I did not know how I was going to sleep because I was literally on cloud nine. I mean, it was a phenomenal show. Definitely, probably top 2 all time. Maybe my favorite. I don't know. I've talked about other shows, and there's when I saw Paige, that was pretty special. But I flip flop because it was just that awesome. I'd love to. I want to go see him again before they hang it up. So, want to maybe see where they're going. Anyway, I digress. I think this is a fun project. I think it's a fun idea to kind of talk about the bands that inspire us to not only buy their music, but then spend more money to go see them live. And I know these aren't the sexiest, like obscure picks in the world, and that's okay. Some of the other bands that I would have seen that would have been kind of a little bit more off the beaten path, I don't actually have on vinyl, and I wanted to keep it true to the vinyl. Bands like Two Skinny Jays or Soul Coughing or stuff like that. So, it is what it is. But, for us being music fans, I think the live experience is equally as important as picking up the record and taking it home. So, fun idea. I was glad to kind of jump in and participate. If you haven't, I encourage you to do the same. So, again, thank you for all the well wishes, the positive thoughts, prayers, vibes. So we're not out of the woods yet with Mom, but Amy's down there, and I'm going to join her, and we're hoping that this is the start of a new beginning for her. So hopefully I'll do some more when I get back, but I will be watching while I'm gone, so don't try to hide from me. Anyway, take care, everybody. Have a wonderful. If we don't talk beforehand, have a happy and safe 4th of July if you're in the U.S. If you're elsewhere, it's a Thursday. Unless you're in Canada, because you got Canada Day too. But everybody, take care.